So, hello.
Hello.
To start off with, would you just like to say your name, each of you, and where you are?
Ernest McCoy, Greensboro, North Carolina, USA.
Nicholas Emmanuel Silva, North Carolina, planet Earth.
Okay, wonderful. And the first question is, since we're here together, who are the two of you to each other? Can you tell me a little bit about who this person is and what they mean to you?
Lots of things. From my perspective, we're colleagues, we're training partners, we're friends. We are organizers, program planners, teachers of each other and ourselves. Have much respect, much care for Ernest, and am delighted to have him as being part of my life.
I can say ditto to all of that.
Just give me a kiss on the cheek.
Yeah, which cheek? And
Or
I do discriminate.
shame on you.
And so for me, it has, the process has included his family, his wife, his daughters, his granddaughter, they are truly, truly included in the relationship that we have on a professional basis. And one evening, he allowed me to give to his, I think she was 11, his 11-year-old granddaughter, a drink of beer, which was non-alcoholic. And I got the opportunity to know her a little bit in that particular setting, sitting there with the entire family, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So it is a relationship that I enjoy. It's a professional relationship, that, as he mentioned, I learn more about myself. He learns more about himself. We learn more about our similarities and our differences, and we can be very confluent, and we can be outside of that confluency.
Okay. Yeah, I just wondered how you'd frame each other to start. So now the question is, who are you as a human being? And you can share anything you'd like to about yourself in that sense. I'm interested in your values, your passions, qualities about yourselves, whatever you'd like to share. And if somebody leaves something out, the other one of you is welcome to complete that as well.
What was the thing you said?
Yeah, you're welcome to fill in the blanks about each other if you don't think that you're describing yourself completely or accurately.
Okay. You want to go first, Ernest?
No, you go ahead. I like following, at least so far.
Yeah, I know. The sheep.
No, you don't.
No, right. Uh, oh, lots of things. I mean, I'm a Gestalt therapist. I've been doing this since 1974. I'm a father. I have three daughters, um, two granddaughters. I've been married to the same woman for, let's see, we met in 1976 and we're together until we were married in 79. So that's about 40 some years, 42 years. Uh, my youngest daughter, who actually was part of our training program for a while. And I said, Ernest, you work for her. I'm not talking to her. She'll kill me. She gave me a t-shirt for Father's Day this past year that says, nothing scares me. I have three daughters. So I wear it. Uh, I like quiet. I meditate 2 or 3 times a day. I value doing simple things. I like to do laundry. I like to have people over, except for the last year. Uh, being part of making meals, walking up. We live on the edge of a mountain in the Smokies. I like being there, here, and walking up the mountain. I I like, uh, even though it's very different than I thought it was going to be and how it is. I love the idea of family. That is priority for me, even though I've had to deal with a lot of my myths and ideas and expectations around it. It's like, oh, this is what it's really like. Okay, I don't like that stuff. So, to be able to flex and move with that, and sometimes throw a little temper tantrum. Uh, but that's priority for me. Um, what else do I want to tell you? I love music, but I have absolutely no skills for it to play it. So, but I surround myself with it.
Yeah, you really do that quite well.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually about to get to buy something else to surround myself even more. And I'm being obsessive compulsive about it. In the Gestalt training and the Gestalt world, I love the idea of that while we have certain ideas and principles and theories and concepts and all of that stuff of what Gestalt is, that how one does it really comes out of who you are. And, we used to do regional conferences for AAGT, and we would have people come from all over the planet, really, as participants and trainers and presenters. And we'd had people there who have worked, had presentations with horses and what is it? Five rhythms. Did I get that right? 5 rhythms. Voice, uh, dreams. And I like that piece of saying to students, you do this by getting certain ideas and principles, but how you do it really comes out of who you are, and that's what I like to convey, is that that's what you're learning. You're learning about you and the world and how you create your own aspect of this whole idea of Gestalt therapy.
It's interesting. That's very much my idea in framing this project that way.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah. So I'm curious who Ernest would say he is.
When you asked that question, I had a smile because I was getting ready to go into. Tell me more about your curiosity. Okay. Little humor there, huh?
Mhm.
You know, I agree with him. I think that's the easiest thing to do at this particular point in time. But all jokes aside, was I joking?
First, though,
I-
easy agreement.
Oh yeah, I do agree, and my thinking about Nicholas sometimes is he doesn't allow all of himself to be seen at the time that he is fully present. You want music? And I would say he's about 80% there in showing more of himself and being present with all of who he is.
At any one given moment.
Thank you. And there's a pleasantness for me in being in his company. There's a pleasantness for me being in his home and hearing his music and talking to his wife and joking. From my perspective, a true family man. And also, sometimes I like the process of our agreeing, and I like the process of our disagreeing. And you know, it's really nice when he realizes I'm right.
You think that's a joke, right? No.
I don't know. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. That's on him. And what about you, Ernest? Who are you?
Well, I say to people, I was born as body. I was given a name, and I was conditioned to be a particular way. And since being born, it is as though, since being born and going through many different conditions, states, I've been working on a daily basis to own what I want to own in reference to my conditionings and the conditionings I don't like, to set them aside, knowing that I may go back to them at some particular point in time. So it's a process, I guess, of looking at shoulds and then looking at the should I be this, versus do I want to be this? And I have the alternative to be and not to be, but I want to do this, but I want to do this with awareness. And so I enjoy living. And experiencing life as life presents whatever it is that life presents. I'm a musician, and I use pitch, rhythm with that beat as I sit and interact with people, as I interact with myself. my first undergraduate degree was in music, and I played jazz and taught music for many years. Little story, until I went to New York to make my fortune, and ran into some of the most outstanding musicians I've ever seen in my life. And I said, oops, let me find another field. So I started working at a place called Sing Sing Prison. And that's when I moved into the field of counseling and teaching Black history. So I still have that rhythmic piece for myself, and wherever I am and whatever it is that I do. I've been married twice, been divorced twice. And I'm okay with that, with the process. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about the other. And that's the other thing. I really like learning about people while learning about myself. I enjoy living each day. And I'm always learning more about myself from day to day, from minute to minute, from hour to hour. And I really love that process. And the nice thing about it is, at this point in time, I'm healthy enough to do many different things. I still enjoy roller skating. I still enjoy bicycle riding. Every now and then I skydive. So I look at my process from a Gestalt perspective and bringing everything together, and all of what I bring together is I give meaning to, and I give meaning to the relationships that I have with people. I even thought about relating to you at this time with what we're doing right now, and how that would be for me as I related to you. And I'm enjoying myself.
I think Nicholas is frozen.
What? Do you hear me?
Now you're back. I got dropped, then you got frozen, but we're here. And I am enjoying relating to you, even though this is a little chaotic for some reason now. So you literally skydive. I just have to clarify that really important part.
I really, yeah, I can show you a quick picture. Would you like to see one? Yes?
Sure. Sure.
All right, let me get one right quick.
Okay. I didn't know if that was metaphorical or.
No. Very athletic in lots of ways.
Okay. Do you agree?
Are you there?
Charlie's not here. Oh, he's back. We're back. There you go.
That's my picture.
Interesting. Is that the two of you?
No.
No, that was my first jump. And
Okay.
I had a trainer on my back.
Okay. So I'm interested. I can do some imagining, but I'd rather ask. What are some of the values that each of you hold in sort of the different aspects of your life?
You asked that question, I had a song, so I'm going to just put it out. Thou shalt never love another. Stand by me all the time. Anyway, I don't know where that came from, but I like that.
It came from you.
Very good. I didn't write it though. Values. I hesitate with that because I look at how do I really define the word value. And I know as I sit here right now, I'm enjoying talking, and also I'm enjoying being listened to. And I guess you might say that can be a value. But what stands out for me most in reference to value is I value where I am, when I am, with who I am, as I live my life. So I really value the now. And I really enjoy the now.
What about you, Nicholas? What comes up as
Yeah,
some of those organizing principles or values for you?
and what?
Okay.
What'd you say, Heather?
Yeah, no. Can I call you back in a little while? I'm on the Zoom.
Phone, Ernest.
I just muted him. So what stands out to you as some of your organizing principles or values in your life?
Yeah, you know, what's coming up for me is thinking about my life, what I define as what I value changes. It's changed a lot over the years. Um, you know, I value uh, I value the work I do, but I also value not doing work. Just being, being with my wife and the little time I had with my daughters in the last year, and just I go out on my deck and I listen to the birds. I walk up through the woods, and just taking that time and space. And that's that's I I've brought that up in my awareness more in the last year. Really, it's always been somewhat a part of me, but there was this dream at one point of creating a Gestalt Institute, and that work and doing all that, the time and the energy, and I love that I have done that, and I love that we're still doing it. That's not the highest value in my life anymore. And at one time, it was. Um, and one of the things, and I look at this from time to time, and I go, so what do I want to do with this time that I have? What? And I think that, not think, I know that that's even changing now, considering different things different ways I want to be in the world and what I want to do with my life. I have family in Greece, and I value those relationships and that connection and the times that I've been there, and just like all of us, I stay on Zoom with them sometimes, but I'm not there anymore in the last year or two, actually more than that. Um, there are thoughts in my head which I have not acted on, so I haven't been ready to do it. And we'll see where that goes. But now I'm thinking about there's some things I want to write, which would involve energy, but it would also be part of that quiet time. When my youngest granddaughter and her mother, our daughter, lived with us for a few years, and I remember I would put her to bed a lot at night, and I would come up with these stories, which took place all over the world, but mainly in Greece. And they asked me for a long time to write them down. So they kind of gave up because I didn't do it. But I've been thinking about that more, that's something I want to give. And that I value that. is a way of giving at least 80%, Ernest, of who I am. And value in thinking about what I want to leave when I go as well. What I would like to, not that I'll know afterwards necessarily, but yeah, just thinking about what I would like to leave my daughters and the people I love. And that's what's going on for me now. Tomorrow, I don't know. Tomorrow, I don't know. And
We
that's
could do this
exciting.
again and it would be different, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's exciting to live in that place
Mhm.
more and more, where it's like, okay, I don't have a clue. You know, I have some plans, I have some dreams, do all this stuff, and it's like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We'll wait and see, and that's exciting.
Your answer makes me want to frame the next question a little bit differently than I usually would. It's sort of like Ernest bursts into song. I have the sense of sitting with two gentlemen of a certain age right now. So I'm wondering about both parts of that phrase. And that's, how do you experience and understand yourselves within your gender or as men? And how are you experiencing your age and aging?
Would you repeat that question?
It's like a short essay, but it's a question. I just, you're gentlemen of a certain age. Can you unpack that for me? Who are you as gentlemen, and who are you, and how are you experiencing your age? Like, I'm meeting you at a point in time, and I'm wondering where you are and how this age is for you.
I think I appreciate you labeling me as a gentleman. I don't know what the behaviors are for that particular process, but
I'm just getting to know you. I don't know if it's actually true.
Thing,
right. Age. Okay, as of today, I'm 81 plus. And based upon my birthday, based upon my process of living and comparing, I'm not 81 plus. The day I rode 23 miles, tomorrow I'm going to ride 20 more miles. If my friend calls me, we will go roller skating. I have a car that goes really fast. So I have two cars, but one car is 25 years old. I had it since it was, well, I bought it brand new. And I like driving that. I like hanging out. I like sleeping also. But as far as the age thing goes, I have not categorized myself in reference to shoulds or should nots, you know, how I need to be, how I should be, how I ought to be. My niece tells me from time to time, she says, Ernest, remember, you're getting older. And I look at her and I say, Cynthia, remember, you're getting older also. So what's your issue? So that's an answer. I just,
Yep.
you know, I'm out here. I think, too, being in Gestalt as long as I have and looking at the different trainers that I have experienced and the ones that are still living, the ones that have died, I have really put myself in the position of seeing life not as, or living not as I was conditioned, but as I am right now. And it's more of a now piece for me that I can enjoy myself. It's, Ernest, what are you going to do? I don't know. I just retired from a practice that I've had since 82, 83. I worked in a college and I had a part-time private practice. I retired from the college and I went to the private practice. And so I'm just out here right now. And someone would say, what are you going to do tomorrow? So I've never seen it tomorrow, but I tell you what I'm doing right now. And that's basically where I live, you know, with an awareness of the now. And I love this.
Sounds like fun.
It is fun.
What about you, Nicholas?
Let's see what I want to say.
How you gonna see it?
I'm going to sit, yeah, I sit here at least 5 days a week in this chair in the last year on Zoom with people and doing seminars and training. And I have a brother, I'm 74. I have a brother who's 10 years older. And he and Ernest both tell me, get your ass off the couch and out of the chair. He's like Ernest in some ways in that he runs every day, works out in the gym 4 or 5 times a week. And I'm working with people more than ever. And I'm sitting here and it's like, it's what I want to do. And sometimes I tell myself, I lie to myself and tell myself, I want to go to the gym. I'm going to the gym. And then, I go, okay, lying again, doing what you want to do. And that's where I am. I'm enjoying doing these pieces, and I'm beginning to consider there's some other things I need to do. I haven't decided yet, or I would be doing them. And as I've gotten older, I began to think about my own mortality as well. And I can remember at some points thinking and creating a feeling within myself that was a little scary. It's like dropping down a well with, without a parachute, dropping out of the plane without a parachute, and allowing myself to just experience that and move through that, and coming to the place more and more where that's okay. This is what happens. So once in a while, I'll still scare myself with that. But it's interesting thing too, changing it, the subject a little bit, well, a lot. I remember working for a particular agency that was working with kids, and I mostly was in sneakers and jeans because I was shooting baskets with kids and hanging out and doing stuff. And I'd walk on the street and people wouldn't speak much. Every now and then I'd go to court and I'd put on a suit and tie. And everybody on the street started speaking. And I thought, this is interesting stuff. So it's, and I find that to be true in how people might, and it's all different, of course, but people will look at me a different way and know that I'm not 25 or 35. And they have some ideas about that. And that's interesting to watch and see, and what people do with that and what I do with it. Because sometimes I'll go look in the mirror and go, wow, what happened? And that's an interesting experience for me. It's like,
Nicholas,
yes.
show her the back of your head.
Oh, the back of my head. This.
I think that's beautiful. Thank you.
That's my rose.
Okay. So it's interesting. We're in the present and talking about, dropping down the well in the future.
Oh, you froze.
Wondering about where each of you came from. Am I frozen? There we go.
I didn't hear you.
I'm wondering where you came from. Yeah, I realized, Mike, for some reason the connection is off today. It's the first time this has actually interrupted an interview.
Gone again. Hurry back, we miss you.
I think I'm trying. I'm trying. There we go. I think I'm back. So we're in the present and we're dropping down a well in the future. But I'm wondering where you came from, and I'm wondering what comes to mind as a particular event or a set of circumstances in your life that you would say has really influenced or shaped who you are.
I've got 2 or 3 at least.
You did say who we are, correct?
Yep, an event or a set of circumstances that stands out to you as.
That's influenced who we are.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, what?
I understand.
Okay.
I'll go ahead.
Sure.
Okay. Um, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. The one piece that really shaped me was and has been, first of all, segregation, Jim Crowism, and the practices that we as a country, some of us indulge in as it pertains to how we treat human beings. And even though that process, I'm not going to say was awful, bad, or whatever, I'm going to say it existed. And so I had to learn about myself while hearing many, many tales about being inferior. And so I'm still shaped by what takes place in this country as it pertains to how we treat each other as human beings in this country. In Elizabeth City, North Carolina, where I grew up, not too long ago, a person of darker pigmentation was killed by the police. I had to ask myself this question, Ernest, how are you affecting yourself? I thought for a minute that I will go down to Elizabeth City and be with some friends and support them. And then I thought, no, I'm going to stay in Greensboro. So first of all, I appreciate you asking that question, which gave me the opportunity to speak to that. The second thing for me with that is what shaped me was having the opportunity to spend 4.5 years with Jim Simpkin in Big Sur, California, learning about myself and about him and about Gestalt therapy. That process was awesome. And that for me was the first time I really, I'm going to say, chose to feel accepted and seen. Even though I've worked with many Gestalt therapists, that was the first time I really experienced being accepted and seen. And then also having the opportunity to spend some time with Laura Pearls. That was awesome. She saw me, she heard me. And now living at the age that I'm living, with the age that I am, it's
14.
I have a sense of being present in this system, regardless of what's taking place in the system. I am present. And I'm present for myself, and I'm present for the other as much as I can be for the other. I'll say to you for asking that question, thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that you're being seen and heard. Wondering about you, Nicholas. And I do want to come back to some of the things you mentioned as well, Ernest.
What? What's the last thing?
No, I'm wondering about you, and I'd like to come back to some pieces of what Ernest said as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking about several things, several events. But really, where I'm coming to is as far back as I can remember, I saw things at least a little bit differently than people around me. I grew up in Southwest Georgia, the state, Albany. And my father came here from Greece. My mother's family, my mother was born in Georgia, but her parents came here from Lebanon. And we were a little different. We ate a little differently. We related a little differently because of the culture that they brought with them here. And I can remember feeling certain things, but not thinking of myself as living a little differently than those around me until I got older. I went, oh, okay, that makes sense now. And just knowing that and seeing that and remembering that, how my grandmother was, how my parents were, it was, for me, it was almost like looking at the world a little bit from outside of it and not being sure where I fit in there. And just the usual conditioning things and issues that I went through, like similar to some other people, of stuff you do with your parents, and you get pissed off at them and do this and work through this and all that stuff. And where I am today, all of that looks so different, except for maybe one or two things. It's like with my grandmother, she was this little teeny lady. I think she's about 5'3" or 4" or something. And I don't think I ever have seen anyone who was so open and so giving of who she was, that for me, whenever as a little boy I was with her and around her, everything seemed to be okay. What else was going on? If I felt like I didn't fit in, or I was angry with my parents, or stuff was going on in the community, or whatever, it's just this sense of that I was able to give myself out of being with her. that went, you're okay. I can, you know, similar but different with what Ernest is saying. I can see you, and however you are is okay with me. And you know that's huge for me. And you know, I can remember growing up thinking about my father and how he was, and all these criticism of whatever, whatever. But my brother, as adults, reminded me of a couple of events which just was phenomenal to me, and I can just feel, I can feel such warmth and power inside of myself when I talk about this and when I hear about it. He owned restaurants when I was a kid. He was 54 years old when I was born, and I was like 10 or 12 when he retired. But he had restaurants in Georgia in the 1930s and 40s. And he didn't have the idea that people should be separate. And he would serve whoever he wanted to. He didn't care what color they were. And police would come in and threaten him. And I don't know why he got to live, but he did. And I don't know, maybe because he was an immigrant or something. I don't know what the deal was. I got away with it. He would basically send them out as profanely as he could. This is my effing restaurant. And one of the, this was huge, you know, and this really, I didn't allow myself to really experience this until I was an adult. It was one event where he was being ordered to have separate sections. And he had a little galley cafe. And he went back in his storeroom and got a rope and put the rope down in the middle of the restaurant. One side for whites, one side for blacks. And the rope went down the middle of the tables so that they would actually be sitting at the same table. How he got away with it back then. I mean, they would kill people back then. I don't know how he did it. And that was, you know, that was huge. Those two people were huge. And just with my father, and just not even my everyday interactions with him. And something I actually never saw that was really done before I had any cognizance of much of what was going
on. Interesting. So this sort of comes into the next question, which is actually how both of you experience power and privilege in your lives.
Hello. I would ask you, how are you using the word, if you don't mind, if you don't want to answer, it's okay, as you know, how are you using power and privilege? Is power and privilege pertaining to anything, people of different cultures or different pigmentation, or how are you?
People understand this in so many different frames.
Yeah.
I'm honestly curious what it means to you and what you relate it to. I mean, I understand it as just an intersectional experience on many levels of identity. And I sort of wonder what comes up and where you do feel power or privilege, or where you find it in the systems that you move in, and how that affects you and how you situate yourself.
I'd like to go ahead and answer that. But first,
Please.
I'd like to say I'm enjoying your eyes. When you use your power and privilege, your eyes will get a little larger and you're closing a little bit and you're a little larger. So thank you.
No problem. I'm really interested, and I do this because I'm curious and I'm interested. So
And I do believe you. I can relate to curious. That's something I carry with me wherever I go. Thinking for a second or three. I don't perceive power. I perceive illusions. The illusion of power and the introject that we carry around pertaining to power. The same with privilege. It's the illusion, because you have a little more than someone else. You choose to go into a place of power or privilege. And so I really don't deal with those words. I really don't give a behavior to those words. It's, for me, it's, you're just throwing something out. Power, yeah, what you talking about? Privilege, what are you talking about? Well, I can go here and you can't go. Places I can go, you can't go. What's the privilege? So when I look at it from the perspective of we're all in the here and now, and we are dealing with cause and effect, what's the power? For me, what's the privilege? There isn't any. We are here and we're going to deal with consequences, regardless of where we are, when we are, or who we are. So I don't know of power. I don't know of privilege. I know of living in the now and experiencing yourself as you do that. And if you get a hot dog and I can't, you can say you have a privilege. Yeah, that was my privilege. And I'll probably just say that damn hot dog is going to kill you, but that's fine. You have a vegetarian burger. So
So illusions instead of power and privilege.
the illusion that we perpetuate, contingent upon our conditioning. And our parents have done an excellent job. And the system has done an excellent job of conditioning us to believe that there is such a thing, from my perspective, as power and privilege.
Okay. What about you, Nicholas?
I'm thinking about it in a couple of ways. When I'm thinking about, quote, personal power, for me, it's just a word. It's just a word. It's, if I have a sense of I'm in charge of me, I'm living my life, which I cannot not do. I may or may not have a sense of it at certain times. If I'm taking ownership of who and where I am at any given moment, I experienced what one might call a sense of power, or freedom, or movement, or I'm comfortable in my body at those times. So I'm thinking about it that way. And I heard something recently. I'm blanking on the woman's name. She actually has a show on one of the streaming Netflix or something. It's a Jewish woman. I'm blanking on her name. She has something show. I think the title of it is "What if it's a city?" or "Pretend it's a city," or something. It's interesting. But I heard her being interviewed on NPR one day as I was driving along, and they asked her, "Do you ever get jealous of anyone or envious of anyone?" She says, "Never." And I don't remember how the conversation got to where it got, but we're talking about somebody with a big mansion and lots of money and all this. And she said, they were asking her about that. Do you get jealous about those kinds of things? If somebody's doing something that you want to do? She said, the person with the big house, I would have to be that person to have that. That's not who I am. So there's no need for me to be jealous or envious. And when I think about that kind of thing, that sense of personal power about living who I am and accepting who and where I am at any given moment, if there is such a thing as power, to me, that's the greatest sense of it. For me, if I'm thinking I need to be going out and doing this and that, making all kinds of money and blah, 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 and some of the shoulds that come out of the interjects that come out of the world, I'm going to debilitate myself in lots of ways, even though that internally that may or may not be my intention. So I like thinking of it in the way that she talked about that. That's not who I am. I'll go wash my laundry.
Yeah. Okay. So I can hear kind of where this goes a little bit towards Gestalt. And I'm just wondering if we bring that word into the room, what have you found in Gestalt that interests you or that resonates and affects you as a person?
Well, I have to throw in this, go back to the value thing a minute. And I think I can safely say that both Ernest and I value humor very much.
Yeah, I'm starting to notice.
It's catching too.
What?
I said it's catching
It
humor.
is.
Yeah.
It is.
It's great to see the absurdities with which I live my life sometimes.
What was that question again?
What's in Gestalt for you, basically?
Oh, you're going to change it a little bit. I thought you might do that. Here's the thing, from my perspective, and getting ready to go into this. Do you know of a guy by the name of Jack Mulgrew? Jack Mulgrew is a Gestaltist in Boone, North Carolina. He started a training program in 1972, and he has been doing training ever since. He's really a decent dude. So if you get a chance to look up Jack Mulgrew.
Well, I'm hoping you can slip me his number on a napkin after this is over. But yeah.
I think I might be able to find it.
It's on Facebook too.
Gestalt Institute of Boone, North Carolina.
Okay.
When I was in graduate school, I studied the social learning theory. Eysenck and Bandura and all those guys are looking at, and Pavlov, classical conditioning, operant conditioning, reinforcement schedules, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. Jack came to give a little talk about Gestalt, and he talked about Gestalt, and I was listening to him, and I said to him, but what you're saying, Dr. Mulgrew, you can't measure. And his response to me was, Ernest, if you have to go around measuring everything, is that because it exists, or is that because it doesn't exist? Something similar to that, which stood out for me. So I decided to follow up on that little program, and I asked him if he was doing any training. He said, yeah, he was starting a training program in Boone, and he would let me know. So in the early 70s, I started working with Jack Mulgrew in Boone. So I moved from the social learning theory more and more to Gestalt therapy, even though I still use a lot of the principles of Gestalt therapy, of the social learning theory within Gestalt therapy, because we as human beings, we are always emitting behavior. If we're not emitting behavior, then we're dead. And the question is, what regulates that behavior? Where does that behavior come from? What? And so getting in the Gestalt, well, I worked with Jack for a little while, then I went out and worked with Jim Simkin for a while. And getting into that whole thing about Gestalt and social learning theory, I began to see and understand the process of emitting behavior, and the fact that we as humans behave one way or the other. But the kicker for me from Gestalt was, and we are responsible for our behavior as body. And that was like, boom. And so to answer your question, I think getting in touch with, we are responsible for our behavior was powerful for me. And so the process that I usually work with is to assist the individual in understanding that as body, you behave. And that behavior is coming from many different places, possibly, but you are in control. Not 100% of the time of your behavior. So that was the piece that stood out for me more than anything else with Gestalt. So that's why I ask people from time to time, how did you do that? When did you do that? Where did you do that? And what did you do? But as Fritz says, not why. Because that's a process of assisting the other person to get in touch with their strengths and limitations as they live from one day to the next. Boom.
Okay. So what's in Gestalt for you, Nicholas? What did you find? What resonates? What makes sense for you?
Yeah. I'm thinking about it in the same way I was speaking about some things earlier. When I first came into it, very different than how I see all of that now and what it means to me. I remember just in the very beginning, the drama what was exciting for me. Wow, this other stuff is just boring. It's like, being an accountant. Not that there's anything wrong with being an accountant, but that wasn't my energy. Uh, so I remember the first time I got introduced to it. Well, back up from that a little bit. I don't know if you know about the University of West Georgia. It's been the center of humanistic psychology on the planet since 1967. Came out of some of Maslow's colleagues came down and set that program up at some request of some of the other people. And there was a guy there. There was only one guy there that I didn't care much for then. Who knows if I would care for him now or not, 50 years later. He was a Gestaltist, and I said, nothing to do with that stuff. I don't like this guy. I ain't going to do it. I've been married to my wife for a long time, but I was married once before. And I was teaching at a university, and we had a new baby. We were broke and everything. So we were looking for this attorney because we wanted to go bankrupt. So we could have a fresh start, whatever the hell that meant. And there was a guy, looked like an old folk singer that was popular a long time ago, Burl Ives, even played the banjo. And we went in to see him. And he says, nah, nothing, you're not bankrupt, except maybe your marriage is. And he reached in his drawer and pulled out a copy of In and Out the Garbage Pail. In and Out the Garbage Pail, and shoved it across the desk to me and said, read this. And I did. And it wasn't magic, but at that time in my place in life, felt like magic to me. It felt like it's something, some way I haven't seen myself or the world before. And I got really interested and started studying that and going to workshops and trainings all around. And actually, Ernest and I were in a peer thing in the 70s. We found out a few years ago. We were both in that. The thing I'm thinking about most of all in that is what it's meant for me in my life. It's like, the old idea of you teach what you need to learn. And it was really, especially in the early years, just working at learning to get to know me and working at learning how to relate to other human beings and other events. And it's still that. It's still that in lots of ways. It's still that for me. That in that I find, in doing this whole process, I find for me, it's a way for me to connect to myself and others in the world. And I love doing that. I love that connection. And to have, and I remember, part of my conditioning in that family, a lot of complexities in it. But people really weren't able to share in open and vulnerable kinds of ways. And I find in this whole process, people do that, and I do that, and that's just exhilarating for me. I'm able to create that in that process. And I love the art of it. There's a behavior and a science to it. There's also an art to it, and there's poetry around it and music around it. And I like seeing all those aspects of that. So, how I am with my daughters and with my wife, all that is different because participated in this whole process with other human beings. And Ernest has been a huge part of that for me in the last few years. And I cherish that.
Your question, what comes to mind? And my pet peeve with that is you don't have a mind.
What comes to you?
What do you, what comes to you? But if you look at the what comes to you, it's not as specific as saying, what did you give to yourself in the process of studying Gestalt, and where are you now? Are you continuing to give to yourself?
What did you bring to you?
That's interesting, because my next question was actually, what question would you ask at this point in the conversation?
Well, I knew that.
Hey, Eli.
That was good. That was good. Yes,
So,
please.
so what is the question?
You asked me, what is the question?
Yeah, what is the question? And would you, in all seriousness, do you have a question that you would like to ask each other at this point?
I'm good.
Okay. I don't remember.
Okay, I'm good. Getting old, dude.
So my question to you is, when do I get to sleep under that down comforter?
Well, I tell you, it's still here. It's still in the package. And to answer your question, I don't know.
What a hell of an answer.
That was
Yeah,
deep.
sometimes. Go ahead.
That was deep. Well, I will go back and steal Ernest's question then. So what have you given yourselves through Gestalt? Can I ask that? Can I steal your question?
I think I answered that with what I was saying.
No, you didn't.
Well, you just don't remember it because you're old.
Oh, get back, get back.
I've given myself lots of new ways of living and relating to myself and other people in the world. That, hey, I took the different road and made all the difference in the world. I took the less traveled road. Yeah, it is what I gave to me. What I said earlier.
You finished?
For the moment.
Okay,
I can't tell you about the next moment. That's
okay,
in my head.
okay. I have given myself ownership of Ernest. I have given Ernest ownership of Ernest. My process in living now is to own my stuff, not to project it, not to retroflect it, none of those ego boundary processes, but to own. So I have given to myself ownership of who I am, when I am, where I am. Are you there?
I'm here. Yeah. And I mean, I would love to actually spend, another hour talking about you, or talking with you about actual Gestalty stuff. But I'm aware of time, and I would also just like to know where you see yourselves going next. What's next for you? I mean, you're probably going, roller skating with a parachute or something. But
To
I'm
the bath.
wondering also, okay, and that's one way to go to the bathroom. I'm wondering what you think is next for Gestalt from here at this point in the world where we actually find ourselves.
That second part of the question I really like. I somewhat, if I may go ahead. Yes.
Go ahead.
I somewhat choose to scare myself with that. Where do we go? And I think I choose to do that because I'm projecting that we are going more for money, prestige, recognition, being right, being able to win an argument, maybe 2 or 3 other things that I'm not able to think of right now. Instead of assisting people, human beings, to work through their process of perpetuating what they keep complaining about in this nation. And so when this whole thing was, when Trump was president and people were projecting onto Trump, and I would listen to them sometimes and I'd come back and ask them, did they ever do this, a similar thing? The answer I kept getting was, well, yeah, but it's different. So the process, it wasn't them taking ownership of their stuff and understanding that Trump was doing what he was conditioned to do, how he was living his life, how he was raised and so forth, and they're doing the same thing. So I don't experience Gestalt going in that direction, and that direction is assisting people to own all of what it is that they're doing and be responsible for it and know that other people have the right to do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we've been talking about, Ernest, you and I have been talking about that kind of thing.
Got to be clear. What's
Yeah,
that kind of thing for you?
just hang on.
Okay.
Take a deep breath.
No, I don't need to do that. I'm good with my breathing. I learned how to breathe at 14,000 feet. Go ahead.
On the way down too.
On the way down.
So as we're creating the program for next year, we're talking about that same kind of thing in terms of human rights, discrimination, all the aspects of that, and how we might be a part of being with people in such a way that they begin to take ownership of how they are creating the world, their world, and the world in which we generally live. Not so much from an activist viewpoint, but more from an individual viewpoint.
The individual can be active.
Yes, but that's more of a general concept. What do we do? Do we go march? Do we go vote? Do we go impact the law in some way? All of which is very valuable and very important to do. And so is this other piece that you and I have talked about.
Do you want me to speak to that?
I'm happy for you to.
Oh, thanks. It's not a matter of intersecting the process as much as it is assisting people to become aware of their daily behavior their conditioning, their beliefs, as how those processes continue to affect how they choose to project their phenomenology onto events and situations.
Well said.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that can take place in a training program if we practice doing that at the time that is happening within that training program with the individuals that are participating in the program.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm speaking of.
Absolutely.
It sounds like an interesting preview for your upcoming training program. And I hear some things about responsibility and agency in that. Which,
Absolutely.
yeah, sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if there's any final, is there a final thought you would like to leave?
I've enjoyed myself. I've had humor, a sense of seriousness, some sadness, lots of humor. I've enjoyed you as you presented yourself and still are presenting yourself. I'd like to know what you're going to do with this. You might have told me.
Blackmail.
See, there you go. You had to call it blackmail, didn't you? See what I'm talking about? That thought that I had, so I'll stop now and just say, yeah, I really enjoyed. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. What about you, Nicholas? Anything left?
Same here. I thoroughly enjoyed being with you and with Ernest, getting to know you more and appreciating your energy and the project that you're doing. You know, and some of the same things Ernest was saying, all kinds of feelings and humor and seriousness and sad and happy and all that. And I'm grateful for your invitation to us. Thank you.